we are the first Nigerian company to be listed on both the premium board of the Nigerian Exchange as well as the main market of the London Stock Exchange. On the 14th of April 2014, the day of our dual listing, Seplat Energy raised over $500 million in a landmark initial public offer listing. Our desire was to build a company that would stand the test of time and stand shoulder to shoulder with other global players from other climes, whilst bolstering our brand visibility, our credibility, and our reputation. We are pleased to say that during these 10 years, Seplat has witnessed incredible growth, delivering value to our shareholders and supporting the federal government's goals of achieving self-sufficiency. And I thank all the members of the exchange who have acknowledged this.
We've been beyond the listing, which was 10 years ago. And in fact, 10 years ago, that started in this room, in this exchange. That is where Seplat started its listing life. And we're very proud of that in 2014. We then have done a number of acquisitions. We've put a lot of development into what we've achieved. For your benefit, Minister, we've drilled over 100 wells, and that's how active we've been as a company, and we're going to be active even more than that. We have one gas plant functional today. We have a new gas plant coming this year in the east, in the Ano gas plant, 300 million scuffs. We've got another one at Seplat upgrade, and we want to do more and more gas. So please help us drive that forward. It's very important domestic. In terms of, I won't go through all those in any level of detail, but what is it in the headlines? We all love headlines. Tax contribution to Nigeria, over $2 billion. In terms of royalties, PPT, PAYE. CapEx invested, because you can't get this production and growth without money going in to the assets. So CapEx invested over 1.6 billion. Okay, and over 2 billion since our incorporation in 2010. Equity raised 535 million. In fact, if you actually take, and I would do this, if you knew me, you'd realize I do this. I take what we actually raised, which is 320 million pounds, and if I convert it at today's dollar per sterling rate, it's $400 million. So we really raised $400 million, and we're returning almost $600 million. So that's the quantity of returns to shareholders, which I know is very important for the exchange and the shareholders. So anyway, I'll move on. Okay, so we went back 10 years ago, and we took our big, thick IPO document off the shelf and blew off the dust. And when we got beyond all the caveats, if you read these things, you'll know the first 10 pages you should never buy anything, right? Because there's so many caveats. But when we went through there, we then looked at the 5 objectives we set for ourselves 10 years ago. Okay, and they're there. And then what we've said is what we've actually achieved. And I'm really pleased to say we've exceeded beyond what we expected by quite some margin. So we set objectives in terms of maximizing production and reserves. We've beaten both those targets and reserve numbers, production. We set conservative acquisition and farming strategies, and we've added 3, maybe 4, almost 4, soon to be 4, hopefully, major acquisitions. We then said we want to commercialize gas. And by the way, this is back in 2014, where gas wasn't the transition fuel. It wasn't things that people were focusing on. The gas price was a lot lower than it is today. And we want to say we want to commercialize that. And again, by the end of this year, we'll have 3 operating gas plants over 800 million scuffs a day. So that's quite a major, and most of that will go into power in Nigeria and actually reduce the cost of energy for every Nigerian in the population that can access it. So that's very important. The fourth one was the progressive dividend, and we've talked about it. We've continued to pay big dividends back. The fifth one, which actually should be the first one, I think, which is good relations and integrate with the host communities. And this is one thing I think that Seplat's done really well, is set the rules of community engagement, actually invested in those communities, and had a fair freedom to operate. A fairness, if we're operating this land, the communities must benefit from this land.
When you look at the markets today, it's hard to divorce whatever you like about the Nigerian capital markets from the Seplat story. First and foremost, that deal of 10 years ago, we haven't seen anything like that in this market in that time, which is good and not so good. But it tells a story in and of itself. So if you were to look back to our markets and try to find landmarks, right, the last real major landmark you will find in this market is this transaction of 10 years ago that we really are celebrating today. So the market is very, very grateful for that. We are hoping that we can actually get back to where we were 10 years ago, where you saw dual listings, where you actually saw IPOs. People come to the market to raise capital in those sorts of offerings, where you had foreign investors participating in the market. Secondly, I think Seplat also has brought a level of governance to our industry. I'm so amazed when I just look at the level of operation at Seplat. It's a very well-run company. You can tell that they're committed to the highest levels of governance. I think they've won 1 or 2 awards in our sort of annual, awards that is given out by our regulation company as an example. You see a company that is well-run, a lot to aspire to. And if you look at the sort of organization of today, it just tells you that there's quite a lot of depth there. And the other thing I will celebrate about the company, back to our capital markets, is also this ability to merge both local and foreign capital together. There are very few companies that are successfully able to do that. When we had the FX crisis in Nigeria, one of the things that helped investors remain is this dual ability to be able to, buy and sell and at least exit in and out of Nigeria. So that also, I think that the markets are extremely grateful for. Going forward, what are we hoping that we can then catalyze on around this relationship? Of course, we're hoping that we can build on many of these things. As my chairman just said, we are also just starting a journey at the exchange. A very strong foundation has been laid, like I said, but we have extremely ambitious, extreme ambitions as a business. We're looking really to support the government of the day. We're looking to support the economy. We think that this exchange and the markets can be a very strong catalyst for many of the things that we say are not quite right or can be improved in our country. So for example, we stand now at the cusp of a huge capital raising effort by the banks. We are positioned to do things that in our minds hopefully will be very transformational. The ability to drive financial inclusion, the ability to get retail investors into the country, the ability to show that we can actually use technology and digitize our capital markets. Now for a firm like Seplat, we also are looking forward to a future where we can be closer to you, your capital needs, your stakeholder sort of engagement, responsibilities, and things of that nature. We have ambitions also around sustainability. It's one that I know that Seplat does care about quite a bit. In fact, when you look at I think it's a sustainability book that you release, it just leaves so much to be desired. So things like that, we're hoping that we will come back to partner with Seplat around many of these ambitions that we have.
10 years is a long time, especially in a country such as Nigeria. A lot can happen in 10 years. But we're truly delighted that what has happened to Seplat in 10 years is not just phenomenal, but actually a testament to how wealth can be created using the capital market. The company was listed at 576. As at yesterday, it closed at 3,370 naira, which is, for those that are good in math, it's over 480% return. But that does not include the dividends that they have paid over the years. To put a figure to that, in the last 10 years, they've paid out $575 million as dividends, both in Nigeria as well as in London Stock Exchange, where they are also listed. So this company has given investors a huge opportunity to really participate in wealth creation. But beyond just all the monetary part of it. There's also the environmental care that they are concerned about, that the GCO spoke about, which is really around ESG-related matters. And I must commend them also for what they do in terms of sports. Your annual golf tournaments are always a delight. The last one that happened at Ikoyi Club was very, very well attended, and I think those are the things that corporates bring, the freshness, the activity, the life that they bring to our very community.